Welcome to the Flyer video. I'm Paul Patrick, and I'll be introducing you to NewTek's revolutionary non-linear editing system, the Video Toaster Flyer. The Flyer is the first truly affordable non-linear system with online broadcast quality output. The purpose of this video is to show you what the Flyer is all about and how easy it is to use. We'll be covering installation, editing functions of the Flyer, including creating and trimming clips, adding effects and audio, and we'll also be talking about the new features of Toaster Paint, the character generator, and Lightwave 3D. When we refer to nonlinear, we're talking about random access computer-based editing. This is compared to the traditional tape-based style or linear editing. If you're used to editing with videotape, you're probably well aware of some of the drawbacks of this approach to production work. When editing with tape, you're always searching through tapes, fast-forwarding, rewinding, changing tapes, and so on. When actually performing edits, there's the constant waiting for tapes to cue and pre-roll, then actually record. Making changes to completed sections can be quite troublesome and often very time-consuming. And there's also the loss of quality associated with going through multiple generations with tape. If you need broadcast quality, the cost of a complete A/B roll system can be a big hurdle. A traditional tape-based system usually requires 3 high-end VCRs, an edit controller, 2 time-based correctors, a sync generator, a switcher with effects, a character generator, and possibly even add-ons for paint and animation packages. A complete system can easily range from $50,000 to $100,000. On the other hand, thanks to the Video Toaster Flyer, a complete non-linear editing system can be put together for as little as $15,000. And remember, we're talking about a system that's capable of D2 quality and with editing flexibility that really isn't possible with a tape-based system. Let's have a quick look at how you actually edit with the Flyer. To begin, you'd open the project you want to edit. You then select the clips you wish to use by dragging them up to the storyboard area. Once you've selected your clips, you can add transitions, CG pages, and so on, as well as fine-tune any of these. Editing a project is that simple. To give you the tools you need to work with, the Flyer integrates seamlessly with all functions of the Video Toaster. The Video Toaster was originally designed to be a complete desktop video system. Up until now, it has served as an exceptional production switcher. It has provided creative digital video effects, a character generator, paint package, color processor, and an outstanding 3D animation program. Audio mixing and editing control, though, had to be handled independently of the Video Toaster. Then, in the spring of 1994, NewTek announced the introduction of their non-linear editing system called the Video Toaster Flyer. Let's talk a little bit about how the Flyer works. An important feature of the Video Flyer is its ability to handle editing on a random access basis. It's able to do this because instead of storing audio and video information on tape, the Flyer uses computer hard drives. This allows the Flyer to instantly access any stored material, which is a key component of non-linear editing. One major drawback to this flexibility, though, is that to store digitized video on hard drives requires a huge amount of storage space, which translates into a great deal of expense. For non-linear editing to be practical, then, the video data must somehow be compressed to handle projects of any real length. To deal with this challenge, NewTek was able to create its own compression algorithm called VTask. VTask provides broadcast quality results without the usual artifacting seen with other kinds of digital compression. Video is input into the Flyer through either YC or composite inputs, while audio is brought in through stereo RCA jacks. Once video and audio have entered the editor, the data is digitized, compressed, and stored on a dedicated hard drive in real time. The information is represented in the form of a picture. Once video and audio clips have been stored on the hard drive, they can be moved about at will in a random access fashion, and you can begin building a project storyboard. At this time, you're also able to add effects, frame stores, CG pages, and fine-tune the clips themselves. When you have completed editing a project, you simply press play. The Flyer decompresses the associated video and audio from the hard drives, handles toaster transitions, frame stores, and key pages at the proper times, and your completed project plays back in real time. At this point, you are able to record your program to videotape, all in one pass. Throughout the rest of this program, we'll be showing you this entire process in detail. First, let's go over the requirements for putting together a flyer editing system. The first component required is an Amiga computer as the base for your system. Currently, your options include the Amiga 2000, the 3000, the 3000 Tower, and the 4000, each of which have their benefits and disadvantages. The Amiga 2000's main advantage is in terms of space available, both for hard drives and for additional cards. One of the disadvantages of the 2000 is its slow clock speed, making an accelerator a virtual necessity for running the flyer system. In addition, because the 2000 does not include the AGA chipset, not all of the possible effects and overlay transitions will be accessible. Also, because the 2000 has only 1 megabyte of RAM as a stock feature, more RAM must be added to bring it up to the minimum system requirements. Some of the advantages of the Amiga 3000 are its faster processor, its potential for RAM expansion, and a VGA-style no-flicker display. However, like the A2000, the 3000 does not have AGA support. Also a disadvantage is the limited space available in the 3000 for additional hard drives. However, the 3000 Tower has all the advantages of the 3000, as well as many expansion possibilities, making this a particularly attractive choice. The advantages of the Amiga 4000 are its standard 030 or 040 CPU and 2 megabytes of RAM, as well as AGA support for full access to the available effects and transitions. The only disadvantage is the limited space available in the 4000 for additional expansion. The system which is best for you will depend on the relative importance of expansion possibilities versus AGA support. An RGB monitor is required as the system monitor for operating the Video Toaster Flyer. You will also require a Video Toaster 2000 or 4000 card using version 3.1 software. In addition to the toaster card, you will require the Video Flyer card, which comes with the required software. A time-based corrector is required for inputting video into the flyer from a VTR. This can be either an internal card, such as the DPS Personal TBC, or an external unit. The minimum requirement for RAM in your system is 10 megabytes. However, 18 or more megabytes of RAM are preferable, especially if your animation needs are extensive. The system hard drive required is between 200 and 500 megabytes. The amount of space necessary will depend on how much of the Video Toaster software you wish to install. The final components of the system are the video and audio hard drives required for the Video Flyer. The two video drives must be of the SCSI 2 variety, while the audio drive can be a standard SCSI type. The size of drives you require will depend on how much video and audio storage space you need. For audio, a 1 gigabyte hard drive will handle approximately 60 minutes of CD quality stereo audio. In terms of video storage, the following chart illustrates the approximate capacity of the various flyer drives. Each 2 gigabyte hard drive will provide approximately 10 minutes of D2 quality video storage, 15 minutes of SVHS quality, and 20 minutes of VHS quality. Each 4 gigabyte hard drive will provide approximately 20 minutes of D2 quality video storage, 30 minutes of SVHS quality, and 40 minutes of VHS quality. Each 9 gigabyte hard drive will provide approximately 45 minutes of D2 quality video storage, 60 minutes of SVHS quality, and 90 minutes of VHS quality. Let's review the minimum system requirements for a video flyer editing system. You will require each of the following: an Amiga 2000, 3000, or 4000, an RGB monitor, a minimum of 10 megabytes of RAM, a video hard drive of 200 to 500 megabytes, a Video Toaster 2000 or 4000 card running version 3.1 software, a Video Flyer card, either an internal or an external TBC, 2 SCSI 2 video hard drives, 1 SCSI audio hard drive, and a mini tower case for your video and audio hard drives. There are a few options for your system which you will also want to consider, most notably a UPS or uninterruptible power supply. This is a very important component of your system because it acts to safeguard your video and audio hard drives from damage in the case of an interruption in your AC power. A second optional accessory is a CD-ROM drive, which is useful if you want to access all of the possible flyer features, some of which are only going to be available on CD-ROM. Finally, a third option that you may want to go with is a digital audio tape drive, or a similar digital device. This is required for backing up any digitized audio and video. Depending on which Amiga you'll be using, your system can be put together in a number of different ways. For the purpose of demonstration, we'll be using the Amiga 4000 to show the basic installation steps. Other Amigas will differ slightly in the layouts of their cards and the location of memory. Now, it's important to remember to properly ground yourself before installing any computer components. If you've never installed parts in a computer before, you really should have a dealer or a qualified technician install these for you. The first step is to remove the top cover of the Amiga computer. In this example, you can see that currently there are no accessories installed, but we've indicated here the areas where the RAM, the hard drives, expansion cards, and an optional internal CD-ROM could be located. Next, install each RAM module in the available slots of the RAM expansion area. There's room for 4 modules for a total of 16 megabytes of RAM, although, as mentioned earlier, 10 megabytes are the minimum requirements for the system. Once the RAM has been installed, you can proceed to the expansion card area. The first item to install here is the video toaster card, which should be inserted into the video slot. This is the bottom slot in this area. Once the toaster card has been properly seated in the slot and the set screw is in place, you can proceed to lay out the SCSI cables and the serial timecode cables in their proper arrangement. Next then, the flyer card is installed and the cables are connected appropriately. If you've chosen to use an internal rather than an external TBC, it will be installed in the slot as shown here. Next, within the area designated for the hard drive, you will install your system hard drive and perhaps your SCSI audio drive. Once these steps have been completed, replace the top cover of the computer and insert the screws on the back of the computer. These are the essential steps for installing the necessary flyer components within the Amiga 4000. Now, we'll briefly outline the appropriate external cable connections in an example configuration. After completing the usual computer connections for power, keyboard, and the monitor, you can connect a YC cable to your source video output. Also, you should plug the RCA audio cables into the audio out from your source. If your source does not have YC output, a composite output can be used instead. Now plug a YC cable from the source into the time-based corrector YC input, and plug a YC cable from the TBC out into the flyer YC input. Now you'll plug the audio inputs from the source into the flyer audio in, then connect the RCA cables to stereo audio out from the flyer. Then you can connect a BNC cable to the toaster program output and connect the preview output of the toaster. This will be going to the preview monitor. The middle jack is for the control cable for the TBC. This allows control of the TBC from the computer screen. This will connect to the serial port of the computer. Next, you can connect the video hard drives to the flyer, and you can connect the cable coming from the toaster program output to the VTR's video in. Then we'll connect a cable from the videotape recorder to see the program output on a monitor, and you can connect the audio inputs to the video recorder from the flyer audio out. You may have noticed that our video into the videotape recorder is a professional BNC type cable. Now, many home VCRs will have only RCA jacks, so you can use this adapter to convert the BNC end to an RCA end. Once your entire hardware installation has been completed and all external connections are made, you're ready to install the software for the flyer. This software will be released in full on CD-ROM, which will include extras such as effects, objects, images, and textures. Also, a set of 50 to 60 diskettes will also be included as part of the flyer package. Now that we've looked at how to get your system up and running, let's examine the basic operation of the flyer. First, let's look at the main screens within the flyer. Now, you'll see that there are 5 main display screens, and each one is for a different purpose. The reason for having multiple screens is to give you greater control over the editing procedure. So depending on which tools you'll need to use, you can use the screen display which best fits your needs. Here we see the project switcher screen. Now this is the default screen that you'll see when you're first entering the flyer. Toaster users will recognize this look from the toaster. It looks like the toaster switcher, but with no effects bank up top. In the flyer, the effects directory is stored in a different area, and this area up top is used for building a project storyboard. Now essentially the switcher screen is used for live production work. The upper window shows a current project with effects, graphics, frame stores, etc., which can be used in tandem with your live feeds. The lower portion of the screen is the switcher area, where we have the main bus, the preview bus, the superimposed bus, the T-bar for effecting transitions, the take and freeze buttons, and the buttons for controlling transitions automatically. This window can be used for switching between 4 different video sources, flyer clips, for displaying CG pages, as well as for capturing images from live sources of video. To access the other displays, we use the pop-up menu labeled Views. I'll just mention that whenever you change from one display to another, the contents of the window you leave are remembered. So when you go back to them, they'll show you the same contents you saw when you left them. Let's have a look at the Project Files display next. This is the screen you'll probably use most often when editing, especially in the early stages of your project. In this mode, you can access all your video and audio information, effects, and any other file information you'll need, which can then be dragged into the project window up top. Basically, this display is used each time you need to locate any kind of element to add to your current project. Now let's look at the display called Files. As you can see, this screen shows file navigators in both the upper and lower windows. This display is used for locating clips, graphics, and so on, and for file management, which includes creating folders, copying information, deleting information you don't need, archiving projects, and so on. For moving information around, you can drag and drop items freely between these upper and lower windows. The next display is called the Project window. This screen is used when you're editing a project after you've gathered all the elements you need to put the project together. As you can see, this display is just a single full-screen window, which lets you see a lot more of your project storyboard at one time. And the last display is called Project. This screen is useful for copying already completed sequences from an existing project. When you're making minor modifications to a project or for making different versions of a project, this is obviously a lot easier way to go than having to reassemble complicated sequences from scratch. In this mode, the current project is shown in the upper window, and you use the file navigators in the lower window to locate the project that you wish to copy from. Once this file has been opened, you can move clips and other sequences of information from here into the current project. Now let's go back to the Views menu, and you can see that this is also the area through which you can quit the flyer. Now I'll quickly go over some of the elements of the main screens. I'll just be doing this fairly quickly, but we'll be going over a lot of these important controls in more detail a little bit later on. First, we'll look at the toolbar here, which appears in each of the flyer main screens. We've already covered Views here, which showed us the 5 main display modes. The Programs button is a pop-up menu, which gives you access to third-party programs which you can use within the flyer. We'll be looking at those programs a little bit later on. The Save Project button is used to save the current project and all the information contained in it. This would include all video clips, graphics, effects, and so on. When you have a project loaded into the upper window, the Play button plays the entire project from beginning to end. The Stop button stops the playback of whatever crouton is currently playing. And I'll just mention that the term crouton refers to any kind of element that you'd use in your video project. This could be a video clip, an audio clip, a frame store, a CG page, a colored background, even an animation. We'll be using this term whenever we're talking about project editing. The Controls button is used to display the control panel for whatever crouton is currently selected. As you'll see, different types of croutons have different sets of controls. Also, you have access to different information about a crouton when you select controls, depending on which area the crouton is in, the project window or the files window. The Duplicate button makes a copy of a selected crouton in the project window. If you duplicate a selected crouton that's in the files window, a copy is made of the crouton itself as well as the actual file on the hard drive. Select All will highlight all the croutons in whichever window is currently active. The delete button removes any selected crouton or croutons. This works differently between the project window and the files window, and we'll show you more about that a bit later on. Clicking on the New Folder button creates a new folder on the current drive. New Clip will take you to the panel for recording video footage or audio onto the flyer. The Devices button brings up a pop-up menu which shows either devices, volumes, or assigns. This area shows the path name that is currently selected or allows you to type in a desired path name. The project window is the storyboard area for putting together a production. This can also be used for creating tailor-made projects, for example, effects banks for live productions. You'll see that a new project window is always empty, which you can then add to by dragging desired croutons up from the Files area. The Files window, which is on the lower part of your screen, lets you move around between all the drives available within your system. You can display the drives themselves, which is what we're currently seeing here, the folders on each drive, as well as the contents of each folder. The first step in using the flyer for a video project is to record raw footage onto the flyer drives. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to open up a file so you can see what happens after we record a new clip. When we talk about video clips, we're referring to a file of moving images, which could be either actual recorded video or internally generated footage, such as a light wave animation. Now here's a very important point to note, by the way. With the Flyer software and the most recent version of Lightwave 3D, your animations can be rendered directly to the flyer drives, instead of having to single frame them to tape. Then the animation can be played back in real time in full 24-bit quality. For anyone currently using the toaster for Lightwave animations, this is a really important feature. Okay, now I was talking about recording original video and audio. When we talk about audio clips, we're referring to a file of audio information, for example, narration, background, music, or sound effects. Right now, we'll look at creating a new video clip from original footage. Now, since we'll be inputting video into the flyer, we've connected the video output of a video playback machine into the flyer input. It's important to remember that this signal must be passed through a TBC on the way in to provide stability. If you're recording audio along with the video, you'll also be connecting the audio outputs from your playback unit into the audio inputs on the flyer. Once all your connections have been made, you'll open the New Clip panel in the flyer by clicking on the New Clip button. Now when this panel opens, you'll notice that you have a number of options for recording your video. First, you have the ability to choose which items you want to record. If you select video only, a video clip will be recorded but without any sound. If you choose audio, you'll record only the sound incoming from the source. When both audio and video are chosen, a video clip with its accompanying audio will be recorded. In terms of the audio input, the flyer will automatically set audio levels to make sure that you record at a proper line level. If you select timecode, you're able to record timecode from your source tape, provided you have the device that's needed to do this. You'll need a SMPTE timecode reader that outputs serial SMPTE information, which will then be fed into the flyer through the serial input cable. Timecode information that you store with croutons can be very useful for referencing your original footage relative to clips that you've used in a project. Okay, you can then name the clip that you'll be recording simply by typing it into this area. I'll call this clip Sample. When you're recording video to the hard drive, you're able to choose the appropriate level of quality from D2 down to VHS, with a number of levels in between. So if your requirements are for SVHS quality, for example, you can select this recording level, which consequently takes less space on your hard drives. Next, you're able to choose which flyer drive you wish to input the incoming video information onto. Essentially, you can record to either drive without any consequence in terms of editing, because the flyer takes care of all your A/B roll situations automatically. In other words, you don't have to worry about how or where your clip is going to be utilized when you store it on a drive. Your only real concern here is the available space needed for your footage. For example, if you'll be recording a large amount of continuous footage, it's more convenient to digitize it onto the drive that has the most available space. For our purposes right now, size really isn't a consideration, so we'll go ahead and select Flyer Drive A. You'll notice that we have this information here showing us the approximate amount of time that's available on the selected drive. You'll also notice this area, which shows us the reorganize time available. When you record video onto the hard drives and then delete it or portions of it, then add more and so on, it's possible to have gaps created and left between the video information. So if you need more storage than is currently available, you have the option of hitting the Reorganize Drive button, which resequences the video information so that all the clips are then put side by side with no gaps. And this will leave you more room to store new clips. The reorganized time available for a drive will obviously always be greater than the approximate time available that's showing. The next step is to choose which input to the flyer you'll be using to create your new clip. We have the choice of Flyer In, which is a composite feed directly into the flyer, Flyer YC, which obviously is a YC feed into the flyer, inputs 1 or 2 into the toaster, or the main out from the toaster. In our case, we're inputting from a playback machine into the toaster, and we're going in through input number 1. Now that all of our settings have been chosen, we can start recording. We have our play deck all queued up and rolling, and now we'll just go ahead and hit the record button. You can see that the recorded length is changing as we go, so we know it's recording properly. Now I'll hit stop and the recording will finish. We could go ahead and record more footage here if we desire to, but instead I'll just continue and we'll leave this panel so I can show you how the screen down here refreshes. Okay, keep your eye on this part of the screen and you'll see that a new icon appeared here. This icon is actually a pictorial representation of your clip, with the image actually taken from the clip itself. You'll find that these icons are represented in this file in alphabetical order based on the name you've given to your clips. So I knew this icon would appear here because I named it Sample, and I knew it would show up at the end of the sequence that I've got here. As you can see, our new crouton appeared with a bunch of other clips that we've already got here. If we had wanted to, we could have created a new folder instead. Folders are useful for organizing your footage for different projects, just making it easier to find on a project-to-project basis. So if we had wanted to create a new folder, we would simply hit this button and name the folder and then hit continue. You'll see that the screen refreshes and the new folder appears. So we could have put all of our new clips in here, for example, for a new project. But in this example, this doesn't really apply. So we'll just go ahead and delete this. Now, if I select this crouton by clicking on it once and then hit the controls button, you'll see that we get some basic information on this clip. We see the clip name here, and here we see the actual size of the clip in terms of the memory that it's using on the flyer drive. We can now grab this crouton and drag it up to the project window and release it here. You'll notice that the crouton moves up to the first available position in this window up in the corner. You can drop the crouton anywhere in this project window and it'll automatically move towards the first available position after any clips that you've already got in this project. For example, if I grab another crouton and place it here, you'll see it flies into the position right after this first clip. I'll mention here again that this crouton is only a representation of the video information on the hard drive. By moving it up here, I'm not moving any file information, but just telling the flyer that I want to use this clip in my video project. So if I delete this crouton from this window by selecting it, which I do by clicking on it once, and then press the delete button, the crouton is removed from my project. The actual video clip, though, is not affected in any way, as you can see down here. The crouton down here serves as an actual representation of the information on the hard drive. So you'll see that if I try to delete this from the Files window, by selecting it, then pushing delete, I get a warning message. So you see, if I go ahead and delete this from here, this will remove the clip from the hard drive and it'll be lost. Now, since I don't want to do that, I'll hit cancel and it stays just as it was. Okay, let's move back to the original clip that we were working with. As I showed you before, you select the crouton by clicking on it once. Double-clicking on a single crouton will play back that crouton. For example, I'll play this back now by double-clicking on it, and you'll see the clip play back on your program monitor. Now, because we can only show you one screen at a time with this program, you'll see the title Program Output on any video we show you, which is the actual output of the flyer. So if you play a crouton by double-clicking on it, you can stop it at any time simply by hitting the stop button here. I'll also mention that even when the crouton is in the Files window of the screen, you can still play back the clip by double-clicking on it. So I'll double-click on it here, and I'll hit stop, which you can see stops the playback of the clip. Now, I showed you before the information that you get when you hit controls when a crouton is selected. If we select the same crouton when it's in the project window and hit controls, we get a different panel coming up. This is called the video clip control panel. Again, we can see the name of the clip, whatever it was called when you first brought it in, and you also see the icon related to the crouton you're looking at up here. And we have this area to put a bit more of a description in for the clip. This allows you to write in a more detailed reminder of what occurs in the clip. So for this clip, I'll just type in sample for video. Here we have the slider controls for setting the in and out points for the crouton you're working on. You'll notice that as we move these sliders back and forth, we actually scrub through the video so you can visually locate the points that you want to begin and end on. When we move these to select these points, it doesn't actually change the clip in any way. It just tells the flyer to play only the video information from the in point you've set to the out point selected. For example, I'll trim this clip to make it a bit shorter, then hit continue to go back to the project window, and I'll play this crouton now with its new settings. You can see it's now playing the shortened version. Let's go back into the control panel. Now, it's also possible to set either the in or out point by typing in the numeric value that you want into this area. You then hit return, and this point is set automatically. And you can also jog through the clip frame by frame, either backwards or forwards, by using these left and right arrow keys. Also, you can see that when you move the slider to change an in or out point, the display for the length of your clip right here also changes, so it's easy to keep track of your clip durations. When you're finished viewing the information in this panel or making any adjustments, you can hit cancel, which will take you back out to the project window and ignores any changes that you've made, or you can hit OK, which saves any changes that you've made and also exits you to the project window. The third option you have is to hit the Fine Tune button, which takes you into the Fine Tune view of the video clip control panel. In this display, you'll see the same controls for the video portion of the clip as you saw in the previous panel, with the clip name and description and the sliders for in and out points. But now you'll also see the controls for the audio part of your clip. As you'll notice, you have the same type of slider controls for audio as you did for the video. These allow you to set the in and out points of the audio independently of the video, which is useful for cutting the audio in and out while the video is playing or for creating split edits. This is where the audio from one video spills across an edit onto another video clip. We'll show an example of how to do that a bit later on. Now again, you have the same features available for accessing your in and out points, the sliders, the forward and back arrows, and the display area where you can type in the desired points. You also have the volume control here, which lets you select the highest level of volume that your video will play back with. This allows you to adjust accordingly between relatively quieter and louder scenes. This is set by moving the value either up or down with these buttons, or you can type in the desired level into this area, then hit return. A value of 100% is the maximum possible volume for the clip. For stereo sound recorded, you have the balance control here to adjust emphasis on either the left or right channel. And with these controls, you also have the ability to fade in or fade out the audio with your clip, or both if desired. Once you've finished any other fine-tuning that you wish to do, you can again either choose cancel if you don't want to save any changes, or hit continue for these to be remembered. And this will get you back out to the usual project file display. Now that we've looked at the basic controls for video clips, let's move on to actually putting together a sample project. First, we'll bring up a number of clips from the Files area. As before, we simply drag these up to the project window and drop them anywhere up here. It really doesn't matter at all what order you place the clips in when you're bringing them up, as you'll see in just a moment. For example, if I knew that I wanted a little different sequence here, I'd simply rearrange them like this, and just by dragging and dropping them into the positions that I want. Now, if I wanted to check to see how this set of clips will look together, all I have to do is press the play button, and you'll see the entire sequence plays back almost immediately. In most cases, you'll be trimming your clips to get the precise look you need, so let's go ahead and adjust these clips a bit. Alright, these look fine for now, so let's play these and we'll see what we get. As you can see, any changes I make take place instantaneously. So if I wanted to move the clips around into a different order, I can go ahead and do that, and when I want, I just hit play again. And the new sequence immediately plays off of the hard drives. And in this corner you'll see the total length of the program that you've put together based on the length of all of the trimmed clips. Now so far we've been using the audio for each clip just as it is, but let's try something a little bit different. Let's say we wanted to spill the audio over from one scene into the next, or create a split edit.
The river's pretty tame, okay? Just one big rapid, and you'll know about it when you see it.
In this example, in this waterfall scene, we've got a fairly harsh audio transition when we cut from the instructor to the falls, and the scenes don't really blend very well. So let's try changing the audio a bit and see how that works out. Let's go into the controls for this clip and into the fine tuning, and let's make the video part of the clip a little shorter, but we'll leave the audio just as it was. So what should happen is that the picture on screen will end, but the instructor's voice will continue on. Now let's go into the falls scene and into fine tuning, and here let's trim the audio by the same amount, but we'll leave the video alone. So what should happen is that we'll see the waterfall scene begin, but without its usual audio at the start.
The river's pretty tame, okay? Just one big rapid, and you'll know about it when you see it.
Alright, let's move on to something a bit different. Now I'm going to want to work with a different set of clips here, so let's get rid of these ones. And we could do this by selecting them one by one and deleting them. But since we want to clear out the whole window, we can hit Select All and then Delete. And you can see this gets rid of everything for us. Now I want to bring in some new clips from a different file, so to do that I simply double click on that file. Okay, let's drag some of these clips up to the project area. Now I've already got a little bit of a storyboard here. Okay, we've got a few scenes here that go pretty well together, but you've probably noticed that so far our program has used only cuts between the video clips that we've selected. If your clips are placed side by side like mine are now, the flyer defaults to playing cuts only when you hit play. Now this may be fine for many situations, but obviously you're going to want to have a lot more flexibility than that when it comes to transitions. So let's have a look at how you go about adding effects to your program. You access your effects through the Files window here, and where they are depends on how you've organized your drives. We've got ours in a folder called New Tech, which we open, and now we can go into the folder called Effects by double-clicking on it. Now you'll see when this opens up that the effects and transitions are organized in a different fashion than they were before in the toaster. What we've got here is a directory of different types of effects, organized so that similar types of effects are found in the same drawer. For example, all the digital effects are located in the drawer called Digital. So if we open this, we'll see the variety of digital effects available to us. You can scroll down through this list with this slider, so you're able to look at all the effects in the drawer. Now to go back out to the main directory, I hit the Parent button, shown by this up arrow. And out here, we have access to over 400 different types of effects and transitions with this software. We've got the basic dissolve, which is always available here for easy access, right on through to wild digital effects and special purpose transitions. I'll also point out that whenever you're in the Files window, you can press the right Amiga button, which is on the right-hand side of the spacebar on the keyboard, and you get a different type of description of the file names that you're looking at. For example, and you can see this, you can try this for different types of menus as well. This is also true for video clips, frame stores, whatever. Okay, now I'm going to run a little sequence that I've prepared to give you a sample demonstration of a few of the brand new effects that are available. Now as you can see, there's a lot of new effects to choose from. I'd say a couple of my favorites are the falling dollars effect and the superhero effect. Okay, now to add any effects to my current project, I bring them up just like I did for the video clips by dragging them up and releasing them in the top window. So let's say I want these, for example. And again, these don't have to go up in any particular order. You can place these exactly where you'd like them after you've brought them up. Also, if you want to use the same effect more than once, you don't have to keep dragging up the same crouton from the files area. For example, if I need more than one dissolve, I simply select this effect and then hit duplicate, and an extra dissolve crouton is created. I can do this as many times as I want, and not only with effects, but with any croutons that are located in this project window. I'll be showing you how this can be very useful with video clips as well, which we'll get to shortly. For now, I don't need all these dissolves, so I'll delete any extra ones. Now, I can place my effects anywhere I want by simply dropping them between my video clips. Okay. If you want to replace an effect with another one, you simply drop the new effect directly on top of the effect that you don't want. And these effects all have certain parameters which we can control, and we access these just as we did for video clips. We can select an effect crouton by clicking on it once and then hitting controls. This brings up a control panel for that effect. For the dissolve here, we can choose the speed of the transition from slow to medium to fast, or we can select variable to set whatever speed we like. And I'll mention here that variable speeds are not always available for all types of effects, so you may see that this V button is dimmed when you go into some control panels. Now, different effects have different controls depending on what type it is. Now, let's say for some reason we wanted an extra long dissolve between the two scenes. We can choose variable speed, and let's try typing in a duration of 5 seconds. I'll hit continue to get back out to the project window, and we'll check this new transition. Okay, but watch what happens when I hit play. You see we get an error message here showing that this transition won't work. And we can even see where the problem area is in the storyboard, because as you can see here, the problem crouton is highlighted. In this situation, our dissolve is too long for the clips that we're using. For example, it's impossible to have a 5-second transition from one clip to another if each clip's only 2 seconds long. Okay, this problem's easy to solve though. We just go into the controls again, select a faster dissolve, and then we'll hit play. And you can see that this transition works fine now. Now that we've added transitions to our program, let's add a few other different elements to our project. In the Files display here, we'll go into the Frame Store folder. We'll also bring up a black background to use for fades to and from black. Okay, let's exit this folder and go into the CG folder. And let's bring up a key page, a color page, and a scroll page. Now we'll place these into appropriate positions on our storyboard. We'll begin with black and then add the color title page here. We'll put a key page here to lay over this video clip. And let's put the scroll page at the tail end. Then we'll finish with a black screen again. Now just like the video clips, all of these croutons have their own control panels. For example, let's select a frame store and we'll bring up its controls. We're able to see the name assigned to the frame store here, and we're also able to add any reference information we'd like in this area. We're able to set the duration for the frame store by moving either up or down from the default setting with the arrows here, or we can type in the desired length here. Let's say we want this frame store on screen for 3 seconds. I'll just type 3 seconds, 0 frames, and hit continue. Now let's open up our black background and we'll do the same. I'll give this a duration of 2.5 seconds. And let's set the ending clip for the same length. Okay, now let's look at the controls for one of the key pages. First, let's try the title page. You can see that this is designated as a still. And again, we have this area to type in any pertinent information. As with a frame store, we have the ability to set the duration for this page, so let's make this an even 3 seconds. Okay, we'll exit this and go into the controls for the key page. And you can see that this crouton is designated as a graphic overlay. This indicates that whatever text there is on this page will be superimposed over the video clip just after it. Alright, so this means that the crouton will not add any time to the total program because it's inserted over a video clip, which has its own length. Now you can see that we can choose the total amount of time that we want to have the graphics displayed over the video by adjusting this amount. Let's make our duration for 3 seconds. The delay setting refers to the start time of the graphic overlay relative to the start of the clip itself. So if I set this for 1 second, the text on this page will appear 1 second after the video clip starts playing. We can also go into the fine-tuning control by clicking down here, which gives us another panel of controls. The only difference here is that we have these controls for fade in and fade out. So if you'd like to either fade the graphic in or out, you can change these values, which sets the length of the fade. If the values are left at 0, then the graphic will take or pop onto the screen. I just want to use the take option here, so I'll leave these settings as they are. Hitting continue saves the change that we've made, and we come back to the project screen. Let's have a look at the scroll page now for the end of our little sequence. When we bring up the controls for this crouton, you can see that we've got a little different look to this panel. We still have the name of the page showing, and this area for adding a brief comment, as well as the picture icon for the page. But this set of buttons lets us select the speed that we'd like to have the title scroll by, from fast to slow. I'll select a medium speed for this page. Next, we're able to select a setting for delay. This allows us to display the scrolling text over the video from the adjoining clip if we wish, or if we leave this setting at 0, the scroll page will act just as a video clip. So this will play over whatever background that you've set for it, beginning immediately after the previous clip finishes. Next, we have a pop-up menu to select the scroll style. We can have the text scroll through once, we can have the scrolling repeat, or we can have the text scroll through once and hold on the last line. And finally, we can select the hold duration, which is how long the final piece of text will stay on screen after it stops in position. For our scroll page, let's choose to have the text scroll through once and then hold in position for 5 seconds. Okay, now we'll exit this panel by hitting continue. And now that we've trimmed and fine-tuned the various croutons in this project, let's add a couple more transitions. And let's have a look at what our program should do. Okay, first we'll be starting on black, then fading up to our title screen. We've got an effect here, then the first video clip, the key page for this next clip, which cuts in, then this effect to the last clip, which is a fade to black, and then the scroll page. That wasn't bad at all, and I think you're starting to get a really good handle on some of the basics of flyer editing, which, as you can see, is very fast and very easy. I mentioned earlier that it's possible to duplicate any crouton in your project window, so let's see how that works for video clips. First, I'll clear out everything in our current project, and I'll grab a new clip. Now, while this crouton is selected, I simply hit duplicate, and you can see that we've created a copy of it. Now let's open up the controls for one of these, and we'll use just a portion of this clip from here to here. Now we'll open up the second crouton, and you can see that we have exactly the same clip to work with here. But let's use a little different part of this clip for this scene. Let's take from this point to this point. Now I'll bring in a dissolve from the Files window, and we'll insert this between our clips. And let's have a look at the result. It's really quite amazing, because what we've done here is create an A-B roll from only one clip without any loss in quality, and in really a very short period of time. This is the way the flyer handles this. The first time that you play a new sequence, the flyer looks for any overlapping clips coming from the same drive, and then makes a high-speed copy to the other drive on an open area. Then, when the segment starts to play back, the flyer sends the footage from the proper drive at the right time. All this is done automatically. Let's have a look now at how you save a project. If you've created a project that you want to save, you simply hit the button called Save Project on the toolbar, and this panel comes up. As you can see, the prompt tells you to locate the project drawer in which you want to save the new project. This is done through the Files window. And our project area is in HD3. And we'll go into New Tech and into the project drawer. Now, once you've arrived here, you're ready to save the project into this file area. As noted in the prompt in the upper window, you should now type the name for the project that you want into this area. And once you hit return or continue, the project will be saved in the file that you opened. And you can see the new icon here after the screen's refreshed. This project and all of the contained information can now be accessed anytime that you want to do any modifications to it or play it back and so on. All of the settings for clips as well as effects, CG pages are also remembered. When you've completed a project, you have the option of deleting the material you no longer need from the hard drive to free up space for new material, or copying the information to another device. You'll want to save this information if you expect to go back and reuse or re-edit the production at a later date. This process of backing up your video and audio information is called archiving. If you want to go ahead and delete the material, you would do this from the Files window display. So you'd go ahead and locate the information that you want to delete from the drives, and then select the particular croutons that you want to remove, and push the delete button. And remember, you're permanently removing this information from the drive, so the flyer will ask you if you really want to go ahead and do that. At this point, you can change your mind, or if you want to go ahead, you hit OK, and these files are deleted, which makes more space available for more information. And in this display, you can choose croutons individually or actually select entire folders. If you do delete a folder, this actually removes the folder itself and all the croutons inside of it. If you want to archive a project, you'll need some kind of alternative storage device for doing this. Your best choices are digital audio tape drives or optical drives, because they're able to hold large amounts of information on a single device, either a tape or a disc. This is different from backing up onto videotape because you're working in a totally digital medium, so you're able to make exact copies with no generation loss. Alright, let's have a look at project-to-project editing. As we talked about before, this is used when you're taking completed sequences from a previously edited project. For example, this would be for updating a project, adding new information onto the end of a program. What this allows you to do is to reuse these completed sequences as opposed to having to do them all up again from scratch. And this includes not only video and audio clips, but effects, CG pages, and so on. To do this, you go to the project display, and it's in the top window here that you'll be creating the new project, which you'll then be able to copy other project information into. So you'll see in the top window you get the message display here, which indicates that you should find the source project in the Files window down below. So we'll go down here and open the project that we want to copy from. Now once we found this, we hit continue or double click on the project, and this opens the project up and also gives us the fresh window up top to start dragging any information that we need from the source project. Now, if it's required, you're also able to bring in information from any other projects that you've previously saved as well. So let's open up another project, and we'll add a few croutons from here as well. Okay, now let's go ahead and save this new project. So again, you'll name this project, and we'll move on from here. Now, you're able to update or make any changes to this version of the project without affecting the original source projects in any way. Well, we've covered the basics of flyer editing. We've looked at the various controls, at creating new clips, trimming clips, adding effects, frame stores, CG pages, and so on. as well as saving and copying projects and backing them up. So now let's look at some of the updated features for the toaster sections. First, we'll cover a couple of the new features of the switcher. As mentioned before, the switcher section is used for live production work. Now, as we talked about before, the empty area up top, which used to be the effects area, is now used for the project window, which we can use to add effects to CG pages, frame stores, animations, just like we did before within the switcher. Now let's look at the process of how to use transitions in the new format of the switcher. Essentially what you do is create a project which contains effects, and then you bring that into the switcher whenever you need it. So to do this, we'll go to the Project Files mode, and we'll open up the effects area. Okay, we'll select a few effects which we want to bring into the project window. Now that we've done this, we'll save this project, and just for the point of illustration, we'll delete this project screen. This will show you that this item is now saved. We can bring it back any time that we're going to do production work that will need this bank of effects. Okay, now I'll go ahead and open this project back up. You'll see here are the effects that we stored. And let's go back to the project switcher. Now you can see that we have access to any of the effects that we chose for this project. This is really a handy feature because you're able to create custom banks of effects, the ones that you use most often or specific effects for different projects. This is instead of having to search through a bunch of different screens each time that you want to find an effect that you want. The current toaster users will find that the switcher has not changed a great deal, which is good news because this was always the real strength of the toaster up until now. The biggest changes are really in the features of the flyer itself and in some of the other programs like Toaster Paint. So let's go ahead now and look at the basics of Toaster Paint, and we'll get into some of the new features in particular. Toaster Paint 4.0 is an updated version of the original 24-bit NTSC Toaster Paint program, which is used for creating television-style graphics. Using Toaster Paint, you can load graphics in the Amiga IFF and Toaster Frame Store format, as well as flyer stills and clips. You're also able to freeze frames of video from any source or rotoscope with frames of a flyer clip. This new version of Toaster Paint also supports the use of PostScript fonts, which gives you the access to really high-quality font output, exactly like you can get with the Toaster CG and Lightwaves modeler. Now, the most noticeable difference compared to previous Toaster Paint versions is the full-screen Ham8 display. As you can see, this is a very high-resolution display screen, and it's able to show more than 256,000 colors. Toaster Paint's control panel consists of three sections, including the toolbar, the current control panel, and the color strip. The toolbar features include this Hide Panel button, which hides the current control panel, and then you can use the right mouse button to return that. We have the Disk, Tools, Color, Text, Options, and Process buttons, which gives access to the different control panels. Here we have the Magnify button. This provides a close-up view of the portion of the screen that's below the pointer. And you can return this to the normal view by clicking on the Magnify button again. We have the Undo button, which undoes the last operation performed. This is in case of an error. And the Redo button, which repeats the last drawing operation, but it'll do it with any modifications that you've made. For example, in changing a color. Swap Screens allows you to select either the current or spare screen. Render displays the current image of the selected frame buffer DV1 or DV2 out to the main output of the toaster. And Switcher returns us to the Project Switcher screen. Now when it does this, it does it without quitting Toaster Paint, and it'll leave all the screens that you've been working on intact, so you can come back to Toaster Paint and everything will be as you left it. The Color Strip is the color selection tool that's along the top of the current menu, and this allows selection of available colors. This item is available at the top of each of the different menus. It consists of the color palette, the 24 color inkwells, which are pre-mixed, ready-to-use colors. You're able to just simply select one and begin drawing. Then we have the current color. This displays the current color selected. And we have the 16 grayscales inkwells. These range from solid black to white, and they can be used on the swap screen when that screen is used as an alpha channel. I'll mention here that the alpha channel support is a new feature of Toaster Paint. This allows you to create graphics which can then be keyed over video, just as you would with key pages in the character generator. Okay, here we have the range color display, which creates color ranges between any two selected colors. Let's have a look at the first panel, the Disk Control menu. This is the area where all loading and saving operations are controlled from, whether that's loading or saving a Framestore, an RGB image, or importing a frozen image into Toaster Paint. These commands consist of load, which loads a Framestore, RGB image, a brush, or an alpha image. And as an example, I'll show you how you'd go about loading a Framestore. The exact sequence you'll go through depends on how you've arranged your storage partitions. But in this case, I'll just hit Load Framestore, and I'll go through my partitions into the Framestore directory, and I'll load the Video Toaster 4000 logo. Okay. Next we have the Save command, which saves a Framestore, an RGB image, a brush, or an alpha image, whether that's 4 or 8-bit. And on this side we have the Import buttons, which allow importing a frame grab image from one of the 4 toaster inputs, DV1 or DV2, in which case you have the option of selecting frame or field. And here we have the main display controls, which determine which frame buffer Toaster Paint will send its rendered output, either DV1 or DV2. Okay, let's go to the Tools menu, which happens to be the default panel that's available when you first enter Toaster Paint. This is where most of the drawing tools are located, and you'll also see the controls for range drawing, transparency, and warping. The tools available to you are Freehand, which allows freehand drawing. We have Freehand Continuous, which always creates a continuous line. This is as opposed to normal freehand, where the line may break up if you're moving the mouse too quickly. We have Straight Line, Polygon, which creates polygons of any shape and size using the current brush and color. Rectangle, Circle, and Ellipse, and these create objects in any size as well. Solid, which converts most of these tools into solid fill drawing tools. And here we have the really interesting new feature called Airbrush. This is brand new to Toaster Paint, and this allows you to draw soft edge freehand forms and shapes. The effect here is just like using an artist airbrush, and you're able to control the size and the flow of the brush. Flood Fill fills a continuous area of one color with the currently selected color, and Full Image lets you use the current drawing mode for the entire screen. With these controls we have access to 7 different brush shapes and sizes, with available shapes being the single pixel size brush, a round tip, a square tip, a horizontal tip, a vertical tip, and the right and left slant tip brushes. The scissors are used for creating custom brushes of any shape and size, and you're able to do this in a variety of colors as well. Transparency and warp controls allow you to choose settings for transparency levels, range color, texture mapping, and tiling effects. Screen 2, which can be configured as a standard swap screen, an alpha channel for the Screen 1 image, or it can be used as positive or negative stencils for drawing on the screen. There are also a variety of Toaster Paint drawing modes which are available, including, as you can see on this menu, Normal, Range, Lighten, Darken, Colorize, Rub Through, Blur, Blur To, Texture Map, or, and XOR. The third menu is the Color menu. Now Toaster Paint offers a lot of different ways that you're able to select and blend colors, such as the RGB slider controls, which you're able to give a value ranging from 0 to 255. This provides approximately 16.8 million possible combinations of color. Also available here is the Color Wheel and Value slider, which control the hue, saturation, and value of any color. And we have the range color control, and this allows you to select a range of colors to work with. You do this by selecting any two primary colors as the center and edge colors, and then choosing any color between them. The Add Color button permits you to insert the current drawing color into one of the 24 inkwells on the color strip. This procedure will make a permanent change to the color palette unless you replace it with another color. The Pick Color button allows you to choose a drawing color directly from the screen itself. This is useful when you're trying to select a specific shade of a color which may be difficult to mix. The next menu is the Text menu. The Text menu lets the user create brushes which can be rendered at any shear or rotation angle, and these can be done in an extensive variety of sizes and widths. The text controls are the Load Font button, which we press to select a font, and then we have the Enter Text window. We can type the text that we wish to use and convert into a brush. Then we'll hit the Create Brush button. This converts the current text information into a text brush. And we have a few font options, which include bold and underline. We also have the Height button, which allows us to size our fonts between 10 and 400 lines high. The Width button, which controls the width of the current font. The Shear button, which changes the angle of the font relative to its normal appearance. And we have the Rotate button, which will revolve the text brush in either a positive or negative direction. The next menu is the Options menu. This menu includes tools for swapping screens or brushes, for flipping and rotating brushes, as well as a lot of other useful functions. We have the Coordinates button, which switches on the coordinate display, and this appears on the Draw Mode pop-up. We have the Set Grid control, which is useful for lining up graphics along a specific line. Use Grid, which locks the pointer movement to the current grid spacing. Global Fill allows you to change the color of all the flood fill areas on screen that have the same RGB color value. Copy Swap copies the current screen to the swap screen. Merge Swap will merge screen 1 and screen 2. Print Screen will output the current picture on screen to your printer. And Clear Screen blanks the entire screen with the current drawing color. And we have the brush options of Copy Swap. This makes a copy of the brush that's attached to the pointer in memory. Swap Brushes, which exchanges the current brush with the brush in memory. Restore Brush, which will restore the brush that is in memory. No Background handles the current drawing color as if it were a stencil color during a brush cutting operation. Flip Horizontal is used for reversing the current brush on screen. Flip Vertical allows you to turn the current brush upside down. Rotate positive 90 will rotate the brush in a clockwise direction, where rotate minus 90 will rotate the brush in a counterclockwise direction. Delete Screen will remove screen 2 from memory, and at the same time will free up more RAM for you. And Delete Swap Brush allows you to remove the spare brush from memory. The final menu is the Process menu. The Process menu is a new and powerful feature for Toaster Paint. This is really an important feature for toaster users who are working with the flyer because it lets you add image processing effects like sepia, mosaic, and embossing to entire video clips. You have the ability to select a clip, then choose which frames you want to process, pick your image process, and begin the processing function. The process menu features include the source clip button, which allows you to select the flyer or the source flyer clip for image processing or image importing. You can choose the first and last frames to process. You have the process clip pop-up menu, and this consists of a list of the current image processing tools that can be applied to the clip. You're able to load a single image from a clip, and this can be either field 1 or field 2. And then we have the process screen pop-up menu, which is a list of the current imaging processing tools that can be applied to the screen. The process button actually begins the processing that's to be applied to the current clip or the image. Okay, let's quickly review the new features available in Toaster Paint. The new interface, the airbrush tool, new palette controls, alpha channel screen, PostScript text support, the ability to freeze live video from Toaster Paint, the flyer clip and image processing controls, and the full screen 256,000 color mode. As we talked about earlier, that's available only in the Amiga 4000 presently. Next, let's cover some of the features of the Toaster's character generator. The character generator provides the 4 kinds of text and graphic pages that are used in television and video productions. The first of these is the Framestore page or color page. This fills an entire picture and usually contains text or graphics over a solid black or colored background. This can also be a dithered background or a Framestore. The key page allows you to superimpose a text or graphic over video footage. The scroll page is a long page of text which moves from the bottom to the top of a page. This can move over video or over a still background. This is often used for the closing credits at the end of a production. And the crawl page is a long single line of text which moves across a screen from right to left. This is often used for an announcement or for special information on screen. When we say page in the character generator, we mean one screen of text, whether that's one word, whether one line, or a full page of text. A book refers to a set of pages, which is used basically for organizing pages that go together. This can be up to 100 pages within the toaster. In the past, usually you would save projects as a book in order to keep information together for the same project. However, with the flyer, it's necessary to save on a page-by-page basis. This is because the flyer generates a crouton each time a page is saved, so that it can be placed anywhere that's required in a storyboard of a project. Each page needs to be accessed independently, so it should be saved as a standalone item. This actually makes changes easier as you don't have to load an entire book, only a particular page. Now I'll work through an example and show you the basics of building a page and also work through some of the new features at the same time. Okay, first we would choose the type of page we want to use. For our purpose, we'll choose a Framestore page. Next, you'd load a font, and we'll do that by going to the Page and Book menu, then hit the Load Fonts button. Now we're able to select a font. Let's choose Acclamation, and you're able to choose the font size. Let's choose 80. Now this shows that the font has been loaded up by going to the pop-up menu. You can select this by moving the mouse if it's not currently selected. Now here's a brand new feature of the CG. You're able to hit the Load Text brush, and you'll see what that does in just a moment. You'll get a requester to enter text that you want, which will be stored as a brush. Let's type in sample, then hit OK. And now you see the new requester for entering a rotation angle. So let's try a rotation angle of 40 and hit continue. Now we have another new requester for slant. Now because I want to show you rotation separately, we'll give a slant value of 0 and continue. Now the text is stored as a brush, so we'll go to the pop-up menu to find that. And that's indicated up here by the actual text that you typed in. So we'll select this, and you'll see the brush appears. We can move this around by holding on it with the left mouse button down and moving the mouse. Now I'll mention here that when the text is gray, it is selected. So to deselect it, you click once with the mouse off of the text that you currently have selected. Okay, let's just reselect this and we'll delete this because I want to show you the slant option. Okay, let's load the same font again. And we'll hit the Load Text brush. Now let's type in sample 2. Okay, this time we'll use 0 rotation. And for the new requester for slant, this is what we refer to as shearing or slanting text, and we can choose the slant angle. Let's try 30 and hit continue. Now we'll load this new brush, and again we'll move this to the center and deselect that. Now, just for the purpose of demonstration, I'll show you that you can use rotation and shearing together. So let's select this and delete this brush. Okay, we'll load the same font again and type in sample 3. Let's give this a rotation of 20 and a slant of 20. We'll OK that. And now let's load this brush. That's sample number 3. And you can see now with rotation and slant together, you're able to get an altogether different effect. As you can see, this is really adding quite a great deal to the flexibility of the character generator, as you're not any longer confined to using only straight up and down text. Now let's move on to another very important new feature that's available in the CG. You'll see on the brush in the bottom right hand corner we have a resizing handle. Now with this we're able to resize the text on screen, and there's no need to reload the font again. Obviously this saves a great deal of time and really it contributes to the flexibility a great deal. Now let's go to the main menu. We'll hit continue and go to the palette controls. Now to display this, we'll select a solid background. We'll choose default black for now, and we'll find that in the preset pull down menu. And let's add some color to the face of the text. Let's choose the default dark blue color, and then let's lighten that up with the sliders a bit. You can see that displayed on the current color area. And let's choose the shadow and border colors as the default gray. That'll let it stand out against the black background. Now we'll hit continue and render that page. And when we hit take, you'll see that on our program output that we have our bright blue text. Now that's against the black background, but we've got the gray shadow, and so that's helping that stand out against the background a bit. So let's hit the page and book controls, and we'll add a box behind the text. First we deselect the text, and you'll find that the box is always available in the pop-up menu. So we'll select that. Now let's resize the box, and we'll place this behind our text. We'll hit the Send Item to Back button. And while the box is selected, let's hit Continue and we'll go to Palette Controls again. Now let's choose the text color, and we'll make the box default white color. And we'll set the shadow and outline as default gray. Now we'll select text again, and this time let's make the text yellow. We'll choose default yellow is a little bit light, so let's drop the slider down and brighten that up a bit. And let's change the drop shadow and border to a default black color. This will help it stand out against the white background of the box. And we'll hit the Edit Background button. Let's try a dithered background. We'll make the top of the page light blue and the bottom of the page dark blue. Again, we'll hit Continue and render this page. And we'll hit Take. And this will show us our program output once again. So now we've got our yellow text showing on the white box. And again, because of our drop shadows, we have this highlighted against the background. And we have in the background of the box the dithered background. Okay, I'll just mention once again that in order to save this as a crouton to use it in a flyer project, you would save this as a page only. So all these pages have to be saved one by one as opposed to saving them in a book. This saves the entire rendered image with all font and graphic information as well. So it's very easy to load this really quite quickly, either within the switcher or in flyer video projects. That covers some of the basics of the CG operation. As you can see, some of the new features in particular really add to the creative possibilities. Now let's quickly review the new features of the character generator. First is the ability to rotate and shear text, real-time resizing of text, and the new page and book controls. Let's move on to the new features of Lightwave 3D. Lightwave is a high-quality animation program used for creating such things as 3D graphics, flying logos, and full-scale three-dimensional animated sequences. It has been used on numerous television and film productions for the output of broadcast-quality video imagery. Now, as we've got only a limited time in this video, we'll focus on showing the new features of version 3.5, and we'll discuss briefly some of the features upcoming in version 4.0. The look of version 3.5 is essentially the same as version 3.1, with the addition of a few new features. We'll mention these as we cover the different areas of Lightwave 3D. Let's begin with a quick overview of the program. When you first enter Lightwave, you'll notice buttons across the top, down the left, and across the bottom of the screen. Across the top of the screen are the menu buttons for entering the different sections of the program. Beginning with the far right menu button, we have the Scene menu, which is where you load and save your Lightwave scenes and set the number of frames that will be used in your animation. The Objects menu, which is where you load and save objects and manipulate their attributes. Surfaces, which is where you can load and save surfaces. You're able to change a wide variety of characteristics of these surfaces, including glossiness, reflectivity, transparency, and so on. And with the release of Lightwave 3.5, NewTek has also included some additional new textures. The Image area is where you load images for backgrounds, foregrounds, and image mapping. Lights, the Lights menu is where you can add lights, change their colors, intensity, and you're able to choose the type of light that you'll need, such as distant, point, or spotlights. In the Camera area, you're able to select a number of different options. First, you're able to set the rendering type, ranging from wireframe to realistic. You can also choose the desired resolution. This includes a new feature for rendering, which allows you up to 8,000 by 8,000 pixels in your images. And this is a value that the user is able to set depending on the available memory. You're also able to choose anti-aliasing levels in this menu, ranging from low to high. The Effects menu is where you're able to set up background, foreground images, the color of your backdrop, as well as different types of fog. Within the Record area, you're able to set the render display, save animation files, RGB image formats, alpha image formats, save frame stores, as well as control for single frame animation recordings. Also, version 3.5 introduces plug-in technology, which allows for third-party support of products such as graphic display cards, for example the Picasso 2. With the Picasso card installed, you have the option of also rendering in full 24-bit RGB on screen, as well as other display formats. The Record menu also gives you the option of setting which render display you prefer. You can set the display for none if you don't need to view each frame as it's rendered, for Toaster, which is the default setting, for 6-bit ham for viewing images in 4096 colors, 8-bit ham for viewing in 256,000 colors, or Picasso 2 for full 24-bit images. You can also set the Save RGB format to 24-bit IFF, RAW, Targa, or 6 or 8-bit ham. Within Options, you're able to select different resolutions ranging from the default setting of 672 by 432 to 800 by 600 and up to 1024 by 768. In order to use these higher settings, you'll require a graphic card such as the Picasso 2. The number of colors available for the interface screen can also be selected. And you're also able to set the size of the layout reference grid, as well as other useful features. The SN area, also known as the ScreamerNet button, is where the ScreamerNet control panel resides. You'll use this menu only if you're planning on setting up a network of computers to handle a great deal of rendering. And the Modeler button here is the area where you create your 3D objects. Down the left-hand side of the screen are the buttons for Switcher, should you need to go back to the Switcher screen at any time. The different view modes available, including top, front, side, perspective, light, and camera views. The edit modes consisting of view, object, bone, light, and camera. And here we have the mouse control, which includes move, size, and stretch on each of the different X, Y, or Z axes, as well as rotate for the heading, pitch, and banking of the selected items, and for setting motion paths. For all these items, you're able to input the values numerically as well. You can also make wireframe previews of your animations and set the number of frames that you wish to render. Across the bottom of the screen are the buttons for selecting the current item, choosing the current frame, as well as setting the keyframe information for your objects, lights, and camera. Let's quickly summarize the new features of Lightwave 3D version 3.5 and Modeler. These include the Picasso 2 graphics card support, new surface textures, up to 8,000 by 8,000 pixels rendering resolution, new rendering displays, and metaforms, which are very useful for creating very smooth organic objects from primitive ones. A few features we can look forward to in the upcoming Lightwave version 4.0 include direct loading and saving of flyer clips, inverse kinematics, additional surface samples, enhanced bone control, multi-level undo and redo in Modeler, and it will support plug-in modules which will open the door for third-party developers to add to Lightwave programming. Well, we've covered a lot of information in this program. Unfortunately, it's impossible to cover everything we would have liked to in a lot of detail.